So we've got episode number 23, and today we have Sarita Dua and her listing manager, Jered Noonan. We're super excited to have them here, and we're going to be diving in a second. But first and foremost, I'm Lindsay Soprani. I am the CEO of Soprani Consulting. We are the top recruiting and consulting firm in the country for all things real estate, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Christy Belt-Grossman, CEO of OpsBoss Coaching, the ultimate resource for training and coaching for real estate's ops bosses. And so welcome to the Leader Equation. You guys have actually been in business now together for 7 years, right? Yes.
That's right.
And so we're going to get into the heart of that, but I'm going to chuck it over to Christy, who's going to tell you a little bit more about who we are and what we're doing, and then we'll jump in without the quick fire today.
Awesome. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time on the Leader Equation, our podcast is about entrepreneurs and their shotgun leaders inside and outside of real estate. What adds to the leadership formula, what subtracts, what divides, and most importantly, what multiplies. How do entrepreneurs find their visionary, or how do they find their unicorn? How do unicorns find their visionary? Today we have a special edition of COVID-19 with Sarita and Jered. We're really excited to dive in, and we're going to skip quick fire today and go right to the meat of the conversation. So Lindsay, let's go.
Yeah, we are. So, well, we just heard that you guys have been in business together for 7 years. And so walk us through, how did you guys meet? How did you come together? What did that look like?
Well, I'll start.
Sure.
So it was in 2013. I had a friend working in the same KW office that Sarita's in, and I had her send my resume around. I was doing small business consulting from home at the time, and I needed a change of pace, needed to interact with some humans on a daily basis instead of just from home. And she passed it around. I interviewed with a couple agents from the office, but Sarita stood out immediately.
What made her stand out?
It was her, for me, it was her direct, she was very direct. I liked her just straight to the point attitude, and she had a background in technology. I'm a gadgets guy. I love technology. So that perked my interest for sure.
That was a home run.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and Sarita, walk us through, when you met Jered, what were you like, totally excited about this person?
Well, I would say excitement may not have been the word. No offense, Jered. And that was probably more for me. I was such a solo agent for so long. I've been in business for 14 years and for actually probably longer now, almost 16 years. And for the first 8 or so years, I was on my own, and I was so used to doing everything my way. And that was, of course, the only way and the right way. And so getting people and having them stay with me and stick with me was a challenge. So I think when I met Jered, it was sort of probably cautious optimism, but at that point, I really didn't have a track record of attracting and maintaining relationships with my staff over a long term. And one of the things I loved about him, and it certainly proved out pretty very soon after we met, is that one, he's very calm, and as a result, he's calming. And that matches my sort of hyperness in a good way. He can kind of really dampen that and bring me just sort of in a level place I need to be. And also, he's a bit of a chameleon. I mean, his role has changed over time, and he just sort of rolls up his sleeves and sort of does whatever our business needs and gets excited about the additional challenges. So he's not one that would say, well, you hired me to do this, and this is my job description, and now we're doing that, and that's not what we were going to do. We just kind of roll with it. And that adaptability has been really great for our relationship and for our business.
Sarita, I just realized we jumped right into questions and did not have you guys introduce yourselves. Would you guys both introduce yourselves? Give us a framework. Tell us what city you're in and about your team.
Sure. I'll go first there. My name is Sarita Dua. I'm based in Portland, Oregon. I've been in real estate. I got my license like in 2003, and I started in 2004. So coming up on 16, actually over 16 years now. It's my second sort of big career. My first career was 14 years in sales and marketing in high tech. And so as a realtor, we have a small team in Portland, Oregon, Jered, myself, 3 buyer's agents, and a transaction coordinator. When I'm not selling real estate in our local area, which the majority of our business is repeat and referral, which we love. I am also just finishing up a grad program full-time at MIT. Full-time means you're full-time, but you're still here in Portland, and flying a lot to Cambridge when flying was allowed. And I also love teaching, training, and coaching. So I'm passionate about kind of giving back to our industry.
Awesome. And Jered, tell us kind of like your role on the team.
Sure. I've been with Sarita for 7 years. My role is a listing project manager. I'm also the field manager. I manage all of our vendor relationships, and then also just database, command, and any other role that I can fit into that needs attention.
Love it. Sorry, didn't mean to derail you, Linz, but I
Yeah,
realized we
perfect.
all know Sarita's like a well-known name in real estate, but some
He's a
people
celebrity.
don't know.
I love it. Well, no, and so let's go back to your, relationship and the fact that you guys found each other. And so in the beginning, what was it like, Jered, to tame this one over here who had worked by herself for a long time? And how did you, sneak your way in? And obviously she said you were adaptable and you've had a couple of different roles. Like, walk us through what that looked like.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a challenge at first to, I worked from home. I was a self-starter. I didn't really have much supervision or anything like that, didn't really need it. And that switched into a role where there was 3 of us who shared an office together, Sarita, myself, and our transaction coordinator at the time. And so that did lead to what Sarita mentioned, doing things her way. She would jump in. If she was overhearing me say something, she'd jump in and, we should do it this way. And really, once we kind of, the transaction, I took her aside and kind of said, hey, I think you should maybe work from home. And she did that. And then we kind of grew from there.
It was rough. They showed up at my house with my monitor and a chair, and they said, don't take this the wrong way, but this might be great for all of us.
That's awesome. How far into the relationship when was it when that happened?
That was a couple years in. We bought that house. So he started with me like, 12?
May of
And
13.
it was like, yeah, May of 13, sorry, May of 13. And this was like 14, 15, just in the first couple of years. And it was true, actually. We kind of knew it because I would kick them out of the office. We shared this office and we had a shortage of conference rooms, and I would have my coaching call. And then after my coaching call, I'd still be on my headset, like on the phone. And finally they're like knocking on the door, like, can we get our lunch? Like, can we come back? And because 30-minute coaching call ended up being 2 hours on the phone. And then I'd be like, hey, I've got 2 listing appointments and 3 buyer consults. And they literally said it. They're like, you need to be on the phone more. And let's be honest, right? You're going to be on the phone differently when people aren't listening to every word. You really can connect authentically with your clients. So me moving to a house that was close to the office and having a home office, I literally made a casual comment like, wow, this office has a pretty view. Next thing you know, I was working from home. Our productivity actually did go up because I was so much more focused. But the other thing that really happened that we didn't even know was such a positive of that was our communication and our systems, right? At first, we used to check in all the time, multiple times a day. Like if I replied, I'm doing something, I'd have, Jered, you're doing that, right? And then after a while, it got, maybe once a day or like morning and night, morning and late end of day, then like once a day. And then we were going days without talking to each other because we really started reading each other's mind. And that helped so much to the point now, it doesn't matter if I'm at school at MIT or I'm on vacation or I just happen to be at an offsite office here. We don't care where we are. We just know we're all doing what we need to do. Yeah. And so it's just very freeing for us as a team to be able to be independent and just know that everyone's in their lane doing what they need to be doing.
Sarita, how long did it take for him to earn your trust in that? Because we see that as a challenge, a communication challenge all the time between team leaders and ops bosses of micromanaging, wanting so much connection versus completely hands off. Like, what was the timeline on that?
It didn't take very long. And part of it is Jered's attitude. He's kind of like, I'm here to support you and I'm here for the business. So if there was ever a disconnect, it was never really personal. It was almost like, how can we just make this business better? So I would say, and some of it is right. Just, it becomes a necessity based on your situation. I was a MAPS coach at the time, and I was coaching 1 full day of the week, and I didn't have time to check my email and voicemail. So the more unavailable you become, the more reliant you become on everyone doing their part. So I would say, Jered, I don't know, you correct me. When I moved to my home office, I would say within 3 months or so, we were all like firing on all cylinders independently.
I agree. Yeah.
And how much did your productivity jump?
We did really good. I mean, because what can you do, right, when you have when you have more time? Because I wasn't worried about the sewer scope or the radon results, or maybe we should have it do this way, or we should do this first. Like, who cares, right? That's not my job. So I think once you have that extra time, you can either waste it or you can put it into lead gen, and I put it into lead gen, and our business went up quite a bit. I would say close to 18% year over year, just from me doing what I should be doing, which is, client outreach, negotiating, and taking listings and writing offers.
So I would say everybody listening right now has that exact opportunity. You guys created the opportunity by moving you home. Well, guess what? We all just around the country, about 80% of us are working from home. So we have a huge opportunity right now.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Well, and Jered, so when you first started, like, what did your job look like and how has it morphed over the years? Just walk us through that a little bit.
Sure. So it was listings. That was my primary focus. And from there, there was always this conversation about how Sarita wanted me to manage the database. But the thing was we had so many, our database was in so many different places, and we had multiple third-party systems where everything was, certain things were housed here, certain things were housed there. And we never really had an opportunity to focus on database, honestly, until Command came about. And once Command came about, that really allowed me to truly focus on database. And in that, I feel like I almost have our database memorized. I'm in there anytime I'm not somewhere else, really focusing, fine tuning it. So that was a giant change.
Yeah.
I want to make 2 comments because he doesn't give himself enough credit. Like, he says his job is listings. It is like every single thing related to listings. Like, I might call him and say, hey, I got a listing. He is setting up all the paperwork. He's meeting the photographer. If the seller left the dish drainer out, he's like hiding the dish drainer so that we can have the right shot. He also has such great, this has evolved over time, but he's got the relationships with the photographer, with the stager, with the different contractors that we use for repairs. I mean, and he's the good cop. I won't call myself the bad cop. I'll call myself the direct cop. But he's the one who, like, I don't know how he does it. Like, we've got 3 hours before the expiration of our repair addendum, and he's been able to sweet talk who we need to get over there and get us a bid. So yes, he does listings and he does them well, but he over time really perfected that process and does I can just slap a listing and email like a handoff with the details, and boom, he's really doing every single thing behind the scenes to make that listing happen.
And so you started that way, and then with just listings, and it's grown though slightly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All the things.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, with regards to the to being a field manager and nurturing those relationships, I quickly realized how important they are. Things change by the minute in real estate, and so being able to have somebody you can call and rely on is so important. And sometimes it's almost priceless. And so I just made it a point to create those relationships, and that means up leveling and being able to sever a relationship when we find somebody better, but also to just being there and supporting them. And letting them know, hey, we'll continue to call you if you do things a certain way. And that's worked out great.
He also co-manages.
You're not a listing manager, you're a relationship manager. Relationship with clients, relationship with vendors, relationships with
the team.
Yeah.
And the relationships with the team as well as the office. He's so connected to the office. He's the one telling me what's happening, and hey, you might want to check in with this. They're rolling this out. Or hey, you haven't been to the last couple of team meetings because you've been traveling. You might want to check in with so and so. So he's got such good EQ in terms of big picture, and he'll pull me in when I need to, because I don't really think that way. Like, I'm all about, like, we just got to focus on results. And it's like, people work for a team, not only to make money or for results. They want to be part of a family or part of something big. And he's great about who do we need to pull in and make sure that they stay connected with what we're doing.
Well, we should probably ask too. So, like, what does the team look like? Like, how many people are there? What are they doing? Because your team is a little bit different, and how you've grown it is a little bit different.
Yeah, so we have 3 buyer's agents, and you can call them showing agents, so showing agent plus or buyer agent light. It's not in a disparaging way. We have a very much an assembly line process where our buyer's agents do everything on the front end, from first contact to cultivating the relationship, to doing the consult and actually having the buyer broker agreement signed, to showing property and finding the property. The minute a buyer finds a property on our team, they do an offer handoff to me, and I'm the lead negotiator, and I write every offer. I write every offer, and then on the listing side, I take every listing with Jered's strong help, right, backing me up, because I wouldn't be able to do it if I was doing every single thing. So if you think of that, I mean, are we scalable? No, like that model doesn't work if we want to sell 1,000 homes. But what does work really well is the buyer's agents have a very defined role. They don't write offers and they don't do repair negotiations. The minute the offer's in escrow, they go back to the next buyer. But it's defined for them. They are also inventory specialists. They know our inventory so well. And I am actually a better listing agent because I'm negotiating those offers and I know market values to the second. Like, oh, like we just wrote on this actual floor plan last week and this is the price, right? The other thing that this does is it just, we all know our strength, right? There's a reason I haven't given up offers. I actually really enjoy that piece of it and I feel like I'm good at that. So we're all kind of doing what works well. So yes, it isn't scalable, but it does lead to a really high repeat referability because they know me from contract to close with my transaction coordinator. And so then when they're likely to sell, they're going to call me, or even when they're likely to sell from a home that the buyer agent helped them with, they're still likely to call me because they know who I am. I do know other teams that, you know, you can talk to the Sarita of that team. They don't know the client's name. They don't know the address. That's not the case for our team.
Yes, very hands-on.
Retention is probably way higher than the average agent in terms of retention of clients because they know you.
Absolutely. And you know, we attract, I was fighting our model. Jered and I were just talking about this. I was kind of fighting the model the whole time. Like, oh, you know, should we change it? And, you know, like, you know, what are our limitations? The truth is we haven't changed it. We've been in this model since 2011. It works really well. And we hire agents that they love showing houses and they love that jigsaw puzzle piece of the house and the person and finding the match. That's the match part that they really like. So we're kind of finally over apologizing for it because it really does work for us and it fits our personalities and our clients. You know, by the time they come to me, the buyer's agent's done such a great job setting them up with this is what's going to happen next. This is what's going to happen next. I also, when I talk to them and do the offer handoff, I give them the out, right? Like, hey, so-and-so has been telling you, you know, like this is that moment, right? We're going to write the offer while I talk to the listing agent and determine what it takes to make this a win for you. Do you have any concerns? Are you freaking out? I give them that sort of exit door on the exit row on the plane where they know that, hey, you already signed a buyer broker with us. We're going to help you find something. If you're having reservations with this, let's talk about it. It gives them a second checkpoint where it's not the buyer's agent's fault, but it's human nature. We kind of, if we're driving to something, we sometimes ignore red flags because we're just sort of, it fits the suit, you know, we're just going to keep moving. So it's just another way. We don't have a lot of deals. I can't remember, quite frankly. I mean, we don't have a lot of deals that fall out because the buyer changed their mind, because we've done a lot. We've asked those questions. We're always trying to break it, to be honest. And that works really well.
It's so amazing because, you know, you guys, you can do that from anywhere, right? You can negotiate from anywhere. What happens when you are out and about? So you're at Inman speaking, right? Or wherever, and you do have somebody call in for a listing. Is Jered helping with that? What does that look like for you?
So for the listing side, it's a little sometimes more challenging because you do feel like you need to see the house, but let's talk COVID-19. I've had 6 listing appointments, 6 appointments since Monday, actually 4 accepted listings. And I haven't been to the houses, right? Like we can do virtual tours, we can get notes. There's been times where I've had a longer vacation and Jered has gone and taken pictures and uploaded notes. And then between that, the one advantage of being solo for me for as many years as I was as a strong buyer's agent, as well as still being tied into all of our buyer deals, I'm really aware of the market. Now, I'm not gonna so on the buy side too, I can write an offer property unseen, because many times I've actually been in that specific property or that neighborhood or that floor plan. But you know, you can imagine, I remember I was in Germany once writing an offer at 2 a.m. in the bathtub of the hotel. My husband was sleeping in the room, and I'm like literally doing that. And everyone's like, well, then that's not really a vacation, Sarita. I'm like, yeah, it's not a vacation. I really only write offers on vacation, but the offer is leading to a paycheck. So I'm willing to do it because it takes 10 minutes. But when you talk to the agent and you say, hey, help me out. It's 2 a.m. here. I'm doing this. My buyer has to have this house. You have to pick us. The message it sends to the agent is, wow, this lady's crazy. And if she would do this for her clients, she's going to make sure she keeps it together. She cares that much about her clients and the end result, which is them closing on this house. So we've actually found a way to really spin it to our favor. And we really, and through the challenge of me going to school and now through this challenge, we're just getting better and better to be able to do more and more virtually.
Well, and I'm sure Christy would, say, Jered, we hear about this kind of person though all the time because they're hard to manage and they're writing offers at 2 a.m. and a ton of emails coming through at, like crazy times and, just not really going on vacation. Like what do you do?
Jered.
Was that super stressful in the beginning or was it like, because you're kind of laid back and easygoing?
I am pretty laid back. It took a little bit to get used to, but I found that I love waking up every day, not really knowing where the day's going to take me. And that's where I find, real estate can get kind of monotonous, and that mixes that up.
What do boundaries look like for you, Jered? Are there no boundaries? Are there firm boundaries? That's something in between? Like, what does that look like? Are you on email, on the phone at 10 o'clock at night? Like, tell me what that looks like.
So we're pretty respectful. I wake up super early, but I also go to bed pretty early. And so Sarita just knows like, hey, after a certain point, I'm probably not going to respond. And if she needs to get a hold of me, she can, but there's no real boundaries whatsoever. It works better that way. I know she keeps odd hours. And so there's no point to stifle that whatsoever by creating a boundary. Just do what you have to do, and then I'll react.
And what would you say for people that don't know how to live in that world, right? Like there's so many that are like, all these things are coming at night. And I'm like, that's just like life. That's what happens with us. What would you say to those people?
You just have to accept that real estate is not an on hours job. It's a career that is off hours, and a lot of it happens off hours, and you just have to accept that.
So Jered, go ahead, Sarita.
I was just going to answer real quick that also it helps that Jered's goals are the same, right? Like anytime I take a listing, he's like as tickled as I am, right? Like it's, there's some people that I think, the more work, it's like, wow, that's more work. But I mean, he's so excited about our business growing that if there's a win for the business, like it's a win and we're just gonna figure out how to get it done. So I love that. I feel like our goals are very congruent, which makes, like for me, as little time as I'm in town now, way more, of course, but I'm so busy. I can barely breathe when I am. At a time when I was traveling a lot, the few days I'm in, I got to make sure I get everything done. But when it results into sales, whether it's a signed buyer or a signed seller, it's great for the team. And that's how I've always felt Jered's attitude's been.
Are you competitive?
We're competitive with ourselves. I think we really, we don't wish anyone else bad. We actually kind of fly under the radar. We don't get too caught up in office plaques or awards presentations.
With hitting your goals.
Yeah, we're super competitive. But we also we both have this ability where if something goes wrong and there's a loss, we just sort of have our little pity party over like, what did we learn? What are we going to do different? Boom. And we go to the next thing. We don't spend a ton of time getting crippled on a loss. And we usually be like, you know what? It's just as well. You'll find the silver lining and we'll just keep moving on. And I think that's great because I think so let's be honest. Let's talk COVID for a second. There's a lot of people that are so, don't take any of my comments that I don't want to minimize what's going on. I get what we're doing. We're flattening the curve. We have to do this. I'm not against any of that. There's a lot of people though, that because they don't know if this is 1 week, 2 weeks, or, 7 months, they are kind of crippled into inaction. And I think you just can't, because you're working from home, you can't get up at 11 and then, stay in bed all day and put the covers over your head. And just because you don't like a situation. I think I read just this funny quote on Facebook, like out of 100 people, 94 are just crippled and there's 6 of us that are actually working. I think you get up, you shower, you have mindset, you work, you start really human, right? Like, which is, how are you doing? We reached out to our database and just said, I'm here for you. How are you doing? And sure, I'll help them if they want to buy or sell. I don't have to talk about that right now. I want to talk about you. To me, it's a huge opportunity because I never have the time to connect with the people like this. Now I have time and they have time too. I don't feel like I'm bothering them and I'm making connections. And I feel like, anyways, there was a point on, I went on this whole tangent on COVID, but I do feel like it's your attitude and your mindset on be creative and make the best of the situation, and focus on the positive. We don't have to spend a lot of time on why are we here? It's more like, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to help you? What processes are we going to change? I know things are going to be amazing when we turn the corner, and the activities we do now is what's going to make them even more amazing. So I think it's really fired me up a bit, and it's got all of our creative juices going, and we're just, we're working because our clients need us.
So what advice, speaking of the COVID thing, obviously things are accelerating at a fast level, emotions are accelerating, business may not be accelerating yet, it will, I think, but not right this second. What kind of adjustments, or what have you guys seen in your relationship, in your communication, in your activities between the two of you, as leaders of your team? What does that look like?
Jered, do you want to start?
Sure. So, because of the COVID outbreak, what we've done is I've actually started working from home, and we decided to make that transition permanent. And so, outside of that, though, I feel like it's just another day like it was a month or 2 months ago or 6 months ago. Sure, we have to adjust some of the things that we typically do or just take for granted, but that's just the moment that we're in, and this will pass at some point. But outside of that, nothing's really changed.
Well, you guys are in an area that it hasn't fully changed over yet. You guys are considered essential, right?
We're considered essential. Our office is closed. I think it's, for me as a leader, I've spent more time than I normally would making sure my team's okay, and just having a team meeting, just talking about our feelings. Like, how are we feeling? What's bothering you? How do we get through it? I had the same conversation with my family. Like, we looked at expenses. We cut a lot of things that I didn't even know I was spending. And by having them in the conversation, it becomes part of the culture, right? I think I'm more patient with my clients, and I think I'm more sympathetic and more of a listener to my team, because there's no playbook for this, right? This is it's 9/11 in the sense that we didn't see it coming. It's affecting us in every way, and there's a lot of personal worry as well. That being said, the buyers and sellers that do, I think a lot of casual buyers and sellers get out of the market, but there's buyers and sellers that need us, and they need us to tell them this is how we're going to handle it, right? We don't have to ask them a bunch of questions. Like, this is how we're going to handle it. They want us to sort of take control. So I will say this, as an agent, it's frustrating because I know it's not fair. I know some states are completely shut down. You can't even show a vacant home. We're independent contractors that many of us do not qualify for unemployment, no matter what stimulus is happening. And so people, and if your significant other is getting laid off or what, it's very stressful. I don't want to say we don't have stress. I mean, I've got kids home, and things are changing, and there's a lot of expenses with definitely reduced income from what we're used to. I had a deal that was 1.4 million that fell apart two weeks before close. Like, let's be honest, that stings. Yes, it's still my seller. Yes, that's still a listing. Normally I would say, you know what, it works out the way it's supposed to, and we're going to get a buyer, but I know that it may take a bit longer. But having said that, I think we're still fortunate that we're in a state where we're getting creative and continuing to find ways to serve our clients. I also want to caution everyone that just because we can do something today doesn't mean we can do it tomorrow, right? Like, you've got to make sure you take advantage of everything you can. You can't just put stuff off, because tomorrow we may get a memo saying, guess what? You can't show vacant homes. So this thing is so fluid that the people that are waiting for perfect and having it all wrapped up in a bow and they're not doing anything, I think it's a shame. I think we're missing an opportunity, and to just talk to all your pendings and say, you know, this is what I'm doing to bulletproof the transaction. I've talked to the agent, she's talked to the buyer, I've talked to the lender. And then for our listings that are coming up, this is our plan. You can wait, or you could go on the market. I will tell you, no matter what, we're going to get through this, and we are going to typically see more listings in the spring. So if you got to sell anyways and your home is sitting vacant, I say let's do it. But it's completely up to you. Just having the conversation where we say it's up to them, and then we give them their pros and cons. That's all they really want, right? Is they feel like they're part of the conversation and that they're part of the decision, and it is their decision, it's their home, and we're going to do whatever they say. And we want to make sure that whenever they're ready, we're there. We're also building.
You're really focused on what you can do. Like what you
Absolutely.
just said was how we can serve our clients. And the bottom line is, no matter what state you're in, no matter what legislation is, there is something you can do to serve your client well, and you're focused on what you can do versus not what you can't do. I love that.
We're either gonna have right now buyers or sellers, or we're gonna have later buyers or sellers, right? So if we just shift it to what does this mean for me and my paycheck and my family, and make it what do we do for them, how can we help them, that attitude for me has always brought business, because we're doing the right thing by our clients. And then, oh, by the way, they tell their friends, they tell their family, they write great reviews, all of it. So yeah, just I think right now the only two things we can do is control our attitude, and just have a positive attitude and focus on what you can do to help. If you just do those two things, and there's a lot of news. You can read news all day long, and I love funny memes just as much as the next person. I do think we have as a workaholic, self admitted, there are, we can watch Netflix a little more. We can spend time with the family. I ordered 3 puzzles. I'm excited about them when they come. I think it'd be a shame for me to not connect and take advantage of a little bit of the downtime, because the whole world is down and it's not going to be like this forever. That being said, I also don't feel bad working morning, noon, and night, because I'm home anyways. Honey, this is a major important call. Go away. I don't want to preach. I know it's weird with the virtual background. I don't want to preach too much. I just want to remind everyone that they can do what's in their control.
And we actually just had a comment along that line. Somebody commented, yes, I'm witnessing the crippling of agents right now, even within our own team. Like, I would love to hear from each of you in your different roles to that person who is seeing a little bit of crippling on their team. How would you advise the team leader? And Jered, how would you advise the ops boss to help their team rise up during this time?
Yeah.
I think it's twofold. I'll take a crack at it first, Jered, and then you chime in. We're not going to get everybody to be as pumped up as we might want them to be. Everybody's has a different degree of risk tolerance, and some people aren't going to leave their house and aren't going to put themselves at risk and are very overwhelmed with kids at home, and their whole life has been cratered in many ways. I think the main thing we can do is be empathetic and listen, and at the same time figure out we have goals we have to meet, and who's on board that we can count on, and what do we need to do for the ones that aren't, so that we can, as a team, sort of be as whole as possible. I can't make people change. I just want to meet them where they are and then understand what we can do. I also think we're going to see a bunch of unemployment, and we're going to have an opportunity over time to top level. And so normally, we've actually had a great team in the sense that everyone's been with us, like the newest person's been with us still for like 2 years. So our buyer's agents has been 2 to 4 years, and Jered and I 7 years. We don't have a lot of people that join and on and off for 6 months here and there. So, but as we look at where people are capable and what we might need to do, and if we need to hire more, we're going to have an opportunity to really be selective on who we bring onto the team. And that's exciting in a market where there was just too many realtors before. Jered, you comment on what we might be doing. Well, how would you advise teams that are struggling with sort of different levels of crippling among the team?
Well, I think it comes down basically just to 2 words. It's listen and encourage. And so we have to listen to their concerns and then just encourage them to act in the ways that they're comfortable, and maybe help them break out of those areas where they're feeling crippled. Or again, just listen and encourage them that this time will pass, and just do what we can for them.
We
I love
share a
that.
lot of success stories, and we also do what we would do with our clients, which is how can I help you? What's going on with you? Is there anything I can do to help? Just making sure that, like our clients, they know that we're there. We're a resource for them, even if it's just a vent to each other. Let's make sure we allow for that.
Yeah, what I love is you guys talked about, before we started, you talked about Sarita, there hasn't been a ton of change in Sarita's leadership through this either, right? She's always steady and calming and has grace and patience she was talking about too, and having that with her team as well as, any of her clients. If it goes in the direction that other people like our state is and in other states, like what do you anticipate that looking like for your team? Just out of curiosity, because I'm sure people are they're in your same position going, all right, we're good right now, but if we go in the direction of no showings, no nothing for a month or 2 months, what does that look like?
I still think you can be creative. I mean, I'm doing Zoom happy hours with my friends.
Yep.
I'm connecting with people. We can pick a neighborhood, drive the neighborhood, get smart about different areas. Right now I've done short of one appointment in person to preview, we did the elbow bump and we did social distancing, and I did one appointment where I previewed a home for a listing. I did every other listing appointment via Zoom and every other buyer appointment via Zoom. We could even just do those same appointments for later, right? Like, let's get on the phone. I have a client I just talked to yesterday. He's coming in August to start a job. He wants to come in July now. I said, let's just pick off your checklist, your homes. I'll either try to do a virtual tour for you. I'll preview it, or I'll just deduce what's online. So we can figure out the floor plan and I can show you everything I can. And we'll determine, I'd love to do it via Zoom so I can see your reaction. I'm still going to use this time between now and when he comes so that we get smart about what he's looking for. So I think that what you were saying earlier, Christy, which is just let's figure out what we can do and let's just do that. And then when the cloud is lifted and the restrictions are lifted and we can do more, we're just going to, you can't turn on a pipeline. It's got to be there, right? So that's the other thing I think people forget is, wow, we've turned everything off and then we're going to turn it on like a light switch. It's going to be a dimmer turning it back on too. And so the more conversations we have, I am probably a little bit motivated by fear, right? Like I might sell 14 homes one month, the next month, guess what? It's 0. We got to pick up the phone. So I never assume that like we're just going to automatically do what we did last year. And so that sort of paranoid nature for me makes me I feel like we got to double and triple down on lead gen, and lead gen in this time is so easy. It's conversational. Like we do some mass marketing. I'm sorry if I'm going to offend anyone. I can't stand the COVID opportunists that are sending all this marketing out. It's like, to me, it's just like, we're here for you. How can we help? Right. And then try not to go one to many, try to go one to one, because people can smell commission breath over email, over video, over everything. But guess what? We do have the time to have those conversations and check in. And now more than ever, we should just be doing that.
I keep telling my clients, we're not in the business of houses, we're in the business of relationships. And if we think about it as relationships and we nurture those relationships, we can help our clients in so many ways. They may not be ready to buy or sell today, but they are going to need us. And when they need us, we're here. In the meantime, how else can we help them with the relationships? We can connect people. We can do a lot of good for people right now.
They're going to appreciate that we were human about it too. Jered and I have a running text of anytime we see cringeworthy marketing, we share it with each other and we have a good laugh. And it's equal opportunity. It's not to just, one agent or another. It's like anytime we see something, we're like, this is what we're not going to do. And it's a great lesson for us because sometimes we get in our own realtor speak and we forget, like, as humans, how would we take that if we saw that coming at us? And so we're just, are we perfect? No, we screw up too, but we definitely have tried real hard to learn from this and just be better.
What does your vision casting look like with the team right now? Is it different? Is it the same?
I'm definitely more of a carrot than a stick person. I just encourage them to make contacts and double or triple their goal. Some of them are doing it, and some of them are still just in overwhelm. And my attitude has always been, though, like, if somebody wants to sell one house a month and someone wants to sell 4 houses a month, I'm just going to add all that up and that's our goal. And then I'm either going to hire for the difference or make it up myself or figure it out, right? I don't say, well, this is my goal, let's divide by this, and this is how much you have to do. It's like, somebody might be in the business because Johnny needs braces and then they want to go to Hawaii and that's their goal. And others are like, look, this is like this is my livelihood and I want to kill it. And there's everything in between. So we just meet them where they are. And so we didn't go and say, our goals are off, let's go change them. I believe it's just like, we've got to double and triple our activity to meet our goals. Our goals are always there to encourage us. They're not there to be sandbag. We're not going to sandbag them just so we hit them. And we'll come through and we'll just adjust and we'll figure it out. And the nice thing about expense management on the personal side is you can just cut expenses. Like you can cut your cable bill and then you can add it back if you miss something. On businesses, I think some people are cutting, which you should, but just remember every business expense is an investment, not an expense. So if there's some things that are just not needed, yeah, cut them. But if there's some things that are investments, just look at things like coaching or marketing. If you're farming in a neighborhood that you're known and fewer people are farming, it actually takes much less to still be noticed. You should continue some of those activities. So we're probably a little bit more, we haven't made a bunch of drastic changes on the business side. The only reason we moved Jered to home is he's home anyways. And there's nothing wrong with, we'll see how it works. And if he wants to move back to the office, we'll figure that out. But meanwhile, his setup is, he wasn't as dialed in from home because he always has been an office guy. So it was an opportunity for him to have a setup now where he can work just like he would work from home. And so, that's another sort of bulletproofing way that we're finding ways to just make sure we're ready to take on what we need to.
So I want to dig into that. This is like the topic nobody wants to talk about, especially the ops people listening to this right now. Do you look at Jered as an expense or an investment? I know the answer. And why do you look at him that way? And if I'm sitting here listening and I'm an owner, what should I be thinking about? And if I'm an ops person, what should I be thinking about? Because Lindsay and I are literally, our phones are blowing up with people firing their whole admin staff.
Yeah, I mean, and whether it's COVID or even you go to a conference sometimes and you're like, man, I build my team wrong, I'm just going to blow it up and start over. We have this horrible habit of comparing ourselves to like what everyone else is doing and not realizing that these are people and they have a life and they are investments. Jered is an investment. And what I mean by that is he's not a robot. Like our business is bigger and more robust in every way because he's part of it. I don't look at him as dollars and cents and like, what's my return on X number of dollars per hour? That being said, if I have to make some tough call, like it's easier for me to get rid of an office rent because again, we don't have an office to go to right now. And we had already went all in on command and cut a bunch of expenses there. There's things like I was using like SurveyMonkey and so forth that like I didn't even know I was using it, so I cut it. But when it comes to people, I'd rather have the conversation with them saying, hey, let's look at like 30, 60, 90, what are our expectations? Would you be willing to be an ISA on the side here? We've got like 22,000 names that we haven't called in a while. I know a lot of them are junk, but as you know, when you can't go visit that house and now, the governor has said we can't show up, let's say a vacant house, we could, I could use you to do this, or would you be willing to do that? Find ways and hope that your team appreciates that creativity, that like, we're just going to get through this and we're all going to, and this isn't about title and this isn't about ego. Let's just do what needs to get done so we can get back to normal. And we might realize our normal might be a hybrid of what some of the new habits we developed. So I think, my direct answer is don't just cut stuff because you're panicked and you need to, and you just, because every book is telling you to cut stuff. Cut stuff that's extraneous, and then the expenses you have, find the way to get the most out of them, including having frank conversations that your people are part of, where they know that they would be helping the business if they were to take on more responsibility or a different responsibility.
I loved what you said when we were talking before the call about, because when I asked, Jered, are you doing lead gen? Sarita, what you said is that he's uncovering opportunities that we've been missing in our database and our, in our leads. Jered, what kind of things are you doing that people on the call might be able to step up and start doing?
Well, one, it's provide value in any way possible. So it doesn't really matter what description it fits or if I've done it in the past or not, as if I can provide value, absolutely. So with regards to database, I'm going through each record in our database, adjusting, reading, tweaking, just making Sarita aware of certain things. So-and-so has been in a house for X amount of years. They might be right. We have this amount of people that haven't moved, X, Y, and Z, that type of stuff, providing some sort of data feedback from our database. And then also just, again, providing value any way possible. So if it's sitting on a call that you wouldn't typically sit on and taking notes to share with the team on ways that we can do virtual open houses, for example, we'll then provide that value back to the team. And it's really just being creative with time to make sure you're using the most of it in a way that's valuable.
And then to build on that specifically, he found a bunch of leads that, and we went back till Jan 1. These are all people that reached out to us just as a double check. Has everyone called all these people? These are listings that didn't sell in the last 5 years. And then he'll look them up in the tax record. Did they sell or didn't they? These people didn't sell back then. They still haven't sold. I wonder if they're still out there. We should reach out. So he's uncovering and he's using the leads dashboard in Command and putting leads in there that we all are following up on.
I love that. Well, so you guys seem so in sync and like so just even keeled, and we know that that's not always the case too. So I know a lot of the times people are listening to us and they want to hear about challenges that you guys have had too. And can you think through like communication challenges or times where you didn't agree on something, and how did you work through that? What did that look like?
It's hard because I just feel like we've been in lockstep for a while now.
I know you have.
Jered, just be brutal. Come on, I can handle it. And I can't even punch you because I'm not near you. I'm at my house. He's at his.
Benefits from working from home.
Yeah.
With regards to communication, I agree with Sarita. We've been dialed in for a very long time. I think our communication issues, if there were any, it was at the beginning of our relationship, and we've grown past those. And a lot of it was Sarita giving up a little bit of control, like we talked about earlier.
A lot of control.
But also, it's just also at this point, 7 years in, I mean, she's more than just my boss. She's a friend. She's somebody I talk to about real life stuff. It's not just the work facade and that's all she sees. I like to believe that Sarita knows who I really am. And there's not really much of a difference between when I'm around her or when I'm not on the clock. And that's valuable for us.
Sarita, give up control, or did you take control, or was that a combination?
It's a good question.
Oof.
I don't know if I willingly gave it up. I think I only gave it up when I was stuck. Like I just couldn't physically do everything. You had to wrestle it out of me, I would say.
Well, and let's talk about, so what did your transactions, really quickly, just back us into some of that, because we actually have a question about how many closed units and volume and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Where were you when he came in, and where did you come to? I think
that's a good question. I feel like we were around, I'm going to pull it up real quick.
Yeah.
Our best year was 2017, 144 transactions for 78 million. And in 13-14, when he started, we went from like 48 million to 68 million. That's that big productivity jump that we got when I moved to home. So we went from 48 million to 68 million. And then we hit, we were pretty flat. And then we went to 78. This last year, I definitely took a hit, and that was by design. I started this program and I was not plugged in completely. We were much less than we were, but our goal is to get kind of right back to that 78 million mark. The 144 transactions, just for context, were 54 sellers and 90 buyers. So that's 90 offers that I wrote for the buyers, with the buyer's agents doing all the upfront work, and then 50, like one listing a week that I would take. And so I think that the thing that's interesting right now is, like when you asked about the team and how do we get them, if they're not where we want them to be in terms, if they're struggling with this unknown, my goal right now is like, let me just focus on listings, right? That's the part I can control. And then let's give them as much support as we can on the buy side, including me stepping into wherever I need to. I'm definitely not above anything, right? The model works because we're all in our lanes, but we'll do whatever we need to. So, but just for context, yeah, 78 million business on its best day, but we're not we moved our price point from 400 to 600 systematically. We've upped our price point, and we don't see ourselves being that team. And I know never say never, but we're not going to be that 1,000 transaction team. Our goal is sort of like at that 150 to 200 mark on the high end. That's at some point for us. Our model unravels and our service offering changes no matter how many people we hire. So we want to make sure that we stay in that sweet spot of making sure that I know who they all are and that they all have access to me.
Jered, I have a question for you, and it goes back to the question that we got that somebody posted about if I have kind of agents on my team that are not there. And there was a great article, I forget if it was yesterday or today in Harvard Business Review about the stages of grief and how that people are going through that with coronavirus. So the person that asked the question is an ops person. If you were on a team not with Sarita, and the leadership and the agents on your team were in different stages of grief and not really there, not lead genning, not where they need to be, and you're in acceptance and you're ready to move on, but you know that your job depends on them, kind of, what would you do? How would you advise that person?
That's a great question. Again, I think it would go back to what we touched on earlier. I would listen and I would try to encourage, be empathetic, and just try to help them through their stages. We're all going to get through this, but ultimately we're in this together. So any way that you can provide value again, and them getting to a point where they're able to move forward, I think is just where you have to be as an ops person. Sometimes that might mean taking on a different role, taking on more responsibility, but having the vision and the foresight to be able to see that and where is the opportunity for you to jump in and help out.
Yeah, love that. I think what it's doing is exposing some of the teams that didn't have clarity on what their lane was and what their role was and commitment to the activities. I think on your team, it sounds like you were very clear on who does what, and lead gen is a priority prior to this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I do think as leaders, we have to be able to model the behavior we expect. I don't think the leader should be like, hey, what are you doing for lead gen? I mean, I think all of us rolling our sleeves up and being willing to do what it takes. I mean, you could say it all day long, but you have to show it. So that's I think that's really important is, as leaders, we just have to make sure that we're doing everything we can. And the attitude is one that we're all working together.
So Sarita, I know you've been asked this before, but with your model, like, is there an exit plan for you at some point? Or, what does this look like? Will you always be in production?
So I think I've had this conversation with a few of my friends. I mean, I actually get really jazzed about real estate and I really do love production. I know a lot of people that are like, I just want a team. And if I never work with a buyer or seller again, hallelujah. That isn't me. I actually get recharged. One of the reasons I got into this business is I was working for a large semiconductor company and we were pushing our roadmap. Like, this is our product, you have to buy it, this is the price. And I just found like I wasn't helping people. And yeah, I mean, I'm not working for a nonprofit. We're not curing cancer or anything, but we're in their lives in one of the most stressful parts of their life, helping them buy or sell. And I love that we're closer to people and helping them in this role than in many other roles I've had. So I personally, my husband and I talk about this a lot because he wants to retire in 5 years. But I also believe that you retire all the time. Like, we're not waiting for a certain year to go to Europe and Christy, you know this, right? You just go, right? If it's important to you, you go. We travel extensively. We have a house at the coast. We do the things we want to do because you can't put everything off to later. There may not be a later, or we might be in a wheelchair or something and not being able to actually see something the way we want to experience it. So I personally think I'm always going to be in production. I just took on a new role, which is I'm the exclusive listing broker for the Ritz Carlton that's coming to Portland. It has me now sitting in an office on site at downtown across from where our build is. It's still 3 years out, but I love it because it's a whole new challenge for me and a whole different set of issues and experiences, including, selling a whole on a promise on how awesome it's going to be. And we're actually having great success already with what I think it's going to do for our city. So I think if you keep learning and you keep staying excited, I mean, my goal might be, I'm always in production, but it might be a phone call that I get and then I refer it out to somebody and still keep the few that I love just because I love this business. I think it's okay though, finally, to admit that this is probably a big part of who I am and always will be.
We're in a business where it's an honor and privilege to have the ability to be in people's lives at the most important times of their lives. Like, how many people get to say that? That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And there's no age limit, right? I mean, you can be, there is like certain companies. My husband works for Nike. I mean, he's starting to feel like everybody's 24 with a skateboard and a hoodie. And so, I mean, again, it's not an ageism thing, but like at some point he's going to feel like the culture, and he may not feel like he fits in. But I mean, as realtors, we can just, our office is this, right? And we've already shown you don't need a physical space to do work. It's really just connecting with people. You could do that, all at any age.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this. So, one of the questions we kind of asked you to prep for a little bit was, did you ever almost end your business relationship? And I know that you guys had an answer on that. Let's talk through that because we've got 5 more minutes here. What did that look like? Because 7 years is great.
So I had a feeling at one point in our relationship, it might have been a year and a half in, where I felt like we just weren't clicking. And, I felt like the conversation was about to happen. And actually what did happen was we did have a conversation, some things changed, and that was really what took us over the hump to get to where we are now. Again, a lot of it has.
Know more about this, like what isn't clicking and what changed.
I should have asked this earlier.
Yeah, because it's juicy, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you weren't being heard, Jered?
I mean, again, I think it was part of, we were sharing the office. There was a lot of looking over my shoulder. And so I felt like maybe I wasn't as independent as I could be. And coming from a role where I was independent for so many years, that was a big change. And that was something I had to also adjust to, but also having Sarita being able to adjust to and giving me trust, giving me the ability to work independently is what we needed.
I'll be honest, I was crazy. And I think he felt like, oh my gosh, what version of my,
I was crazy.
Yeah, I was crazy. It's really tough to work to someone else's standard, and especially if the standards in their head, right? In my head. So this whole idea of just sort of tiptoeing around what version of me will he get, and is he doing something right or wrong, and not even knowing what's right or wrong. I would say me moving out of the office was helpful, but I'll be straight up, like him having the conversation with me. As smart as I can be, sometimes I was so clueless. I didn't even know I was doing it. Like I didn't know that it was people tell me I can be intimidating. I'm like, what? These dimples? What are you talking about? But I think I give him a lot of credit for coming to me and just saying, hey, let's have a conversation. And I didn't to me, it just killed me that there was this chance that he wasn't happy and I didn't even realize it. Like, was I that out of touch? So that conversation really catapulted us both. Like one, I just wasn't aware. So it made me aware. 2, I think we became, versus team leader and listing manager, I think we really became partners. I just feel like he's my thought partner. I love bouncing ideas off of him. Sometimes he'll also be like, that's great that you did all that, but like, this is how our team is. And I can't see you changing it all that way after that conference you went to. And so he'll give me his perspective and I value it. So it's been really fun that we bounce, we both care about the business. Yeah, it might be the Ask Sarita team and it's not the Ask Jered team, but I feel like he's equally vested in the success of what we're trying to build. So I'm just thankful we had the conversation instead of him just going in, taking a job and then just being like, see ya, here's my 2 weeks. Because I didn't know, I really was clueless.
That was the gold nugget of this conversation. And literally, I can't tell you how many coaching clients have that exact issue. And Jered, I love that you just went and had the conversation.
Yeah. Communication is just so important. And the ability to not feel like I can't say anything That's not an issue for me. I can tell Sarita anything, and it's that confidence that I have in that really I feel makes us successful.
Yeah. And that is exactly what makes you successful, right? There's so many people that don't feel like they can have that conversation with their boss or say exactly what they mean. But then, when push comes to shove and you go through something like we're going through right now, if you don't have that right now, it's so tricky.
Yeah, taking a stressful situation and then adding more heat and more stress is not a great combo.
Oh.
You're hopeful that you have some of that figured out before you get to this point.
Oh my gosh. You guys are awesome. I love, this has been really good. I feel like it was really good to come back to this relationship too, because we've been a little bit focused on COVID-19, but it's really been nice to come back to seeing a relationship that one is at 7 years, which like most marriages, that's when they, start to crumble and stuff, right? You've stood the test of time. That's so amazing. And just thankful for you guys spending this hour with us. And I know everybody has gotten a ton. There are some other questions that we didn't get to, like they want to know about your listing presentation online and all that fun stuff. So maybe you can share some of that, but we're just really thankful and thank you so much.
Before we hang up, do you want to tell people how to send referrals to you, where you are, etc.?
Yep. Absolutely. We're in Portland, Oregon. My email's sarita@asksarita.com, and my cell phone's pretty much on everything. Just text me, go through Kelly, whatever it takes. I will just say this, Jered is a unicorn. He's amazing, but I was a freak and am a freak. And if we could do this and we could find each other, there's hope for anyone, because we really, it was bad. They had to kick me out of the office, and here we are, right? And not only is he my trusted confidant, we're really good friends, and it's been a great relationship that's really flourished over the years. So I just want to leave everyone with, it's possible. Don't give up, and don't assume like, oh, I'm never going to find that, because we really had no business finding it, and we did it.
I love that. And ops bosses, pick up that monitor and chair and carry them home.
I know. See ya. That's hilarious. Yeah. And I get kicked out of my office now. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Take care. Have a good day.
Bye.